His rise has been nothing short of remarkable, especially considering his fall to the 4th round of the draft, despite initially being considered a first-round caliber prospect. One game above all others served to silence his haters and cement his place as one of the league's premier up-and-coming wide receivers in 2022. Join me as we look back on the game that made Amon-Ra St. Brown a superstar. To understand the significance of this game in the grand scheme of his career, we have to go back to his days as a high school prospect. Born and raised in the talent-rich Los Angeles metro area, Amon-Ra was the youngest of 3 boys, who were all pushed towards athletic excellence by their father, John. John was a former Mr. World-winning bodybuilder whose ambition was passed down to his children, carrying on into their professional careers. His wife Miriam took care of the boys' off-field education, ensuring that they learned French as well as her native German while maintaining near-perfect grades. When asked about the high standards they hold their children to, John responded with some fatefully foreshadowing wordplay. Both of Amon-Ra's older brothers became D1 wide receivers, with the eldest Equinemius shining at Notre Dame, and the middle child, Osiris, representing the Stanford Cardinal. Amon-Ra was a great player in his own right, however, earning a 5-star ranking as one of the best wide receiver prospects in the nation on a stacked modern-day high school side, catching passes from JT Daniels, who, at the time, was universally touted as a generational talent. Former Steelers safety Ryan Clark recalls the attitude St. Brown had when he first met the wideout at The Opening, an elite football camp for high schoolers. One of the most prolific partnerships in high school football history was on full display in Amon-Ra's senior year, as he put up 1,320 receiving yards for 20 touchdowns in Santa Ana. He committed to USC to stay close to home while still playing for an elite program. Even better news came for Trojan fans when JT Daniels reclassified to graduate in 2018, allowing him to enroll at USC alongside Amon-Ra and keep the viral tandem alive for the years to come. He was the second leading receiver behind Michael Pittman Jr. as a freshman on a woeful 5-7 Trojans team, before a breakout sophomore effort where he earned 1,102 yards from scrimmage with Keaton Slovis under center. His 7 total touchdowns in 2019 were still overshadowed by Pittman's, but Amon-Ra St. Brown was poised to explode in 2020. As it had for many players, the onset of the pandemic drastically altered Amon-Ra's 2020 season, and as a result, his route to becoming a pro. You see, the Pac-12 opted to shorten their calendar, meaning that USC only scheduled 6 games all year. Although St. Brown led the Pac-12 in receptions and touchdowns with 41 and 7 respectively, earning him all-conference honors, his less than impressive physical stature had the former blue-chip recruit graded as a 2nd or 3rd round prospect when he declared for the NFL draft in early 2021. A poor showing at the Combine didn't help. But when day 2 of the draft rolled around, and Amon-Ra didn't hear his name called, a thirst for vengeance began brewing inside him. All he needed was to go to the right team, which, according to him, was anywhere but a rebuilding franchise like Detroit. As fate would have it, with the 112th overall pick, the Detroit Lions made USC's star the 16th wide receiver selected in the 2021 draft. Although it would be hard to exact his revenge on the league while representing a team deep in rebuild mode, one thing was for certain. Everyone had underestimated the size of the dog in Amon-Ra St. Brown. Starting the season 0-10-1 was perhaps even lower than the most pessimistic Lion fans had anticipated their team would be 12 weeks in. St. Brown later explained that he saw many of his teammates wavering in the face of adversity and checking out altogether, which instead motivated him to work harder and step up when the team needed him most. In Week 12 of 2021, Amon-Ra St. Brown caught his first NFL touchdown while racking up 86 yards on a season-high 12 targets, a threefold increase from what he had seen the week prior. Most importantly, Detroit registered its first win of the season against the division rival Vikings. St. Brown subsequently caught a touchdown in each of the remaining 4 games of the season, helping Detroit win 3 of their last 6 and generate some momentum heading into 2022. He led the team in receiving as a rookie and carried his form over to the new season, snagging another score in a tough opening day loss in Philly. St. Brown's relentless drive had earned him the wide receiver 1 title, which he would prove was rightfully his the following week against the Washington Commanders in the game that catapulted him into superstar status. Now, this sentence may sound slightly absurd today, but the Washington Commanders were considered dark horses for the NFC East in 2022 after acquiring Carson Wentz as their starting quarterback. He had plenty of offensive weapons at his disposal in the nation's capital, which he flaunted in a fourth-quarter comeback over the Jaguars in Week 1. Detroit, as we've already mentioned, were coming off a 3-13-1 season, and despite showing some promise against the Eagles the week prior, were not favorites to beat the Commanders, even with home field advantage. The Lions received the kickoff, and on the first play of their opening drive, passed to St. Brown for a 3-yard gain. The drive ultimately ended in a 3-and-out, before Washington then returned the favor to give Detroit the ball back with the game still tied at 0-0. They looked all but set for another scoreless drive with a 3rd and 3 in their own half, before Goff found his number 14 over the middle for a 49-yard gain. This would prove to be a huge momentum shift in the game, allowing Detroit to get the scoring underway with a field goal. Washington once again failed to score, and the Lions sought to take advantage with a promising 54-yard drive. However, they failed to convert on a 4th and goal on Washington's 3-yard line, a gamble which failed successfully as they wound up getting a safety after sacking Wentz in the end zone. Now up 5-0, with fantastic field position, the Lions' struggles in the red zone continued. On 3rd and 5, Goff desperately heaved the ball into the end zone, where Amon-Ra St. Brown was waiting for it, ready to make a spectacular catch over the DB for his second touchdown of the season. Another field goal on the next drive had the Lions up 15-0 to start the second quarter, before stringing together a 77-yard scoring drive just before half. St. Brown did his part by earning a first down on an 11-yard reception to bring them inside Washington's 30. A commanding 22-0 halftime lead had the Lions thinking they had their first win of the season in the bag. But they were conveniently forgetting that the game was only halfway done and appeared to take their foot off the gas to start the third quarter. The Commanders scored on 2 of their 3 third-quarter drives, and suddenly, it was a one-score game at Ford Field. All of the momentum had shifted to the visitors, and as the Lions set up at their 25-yard line, they needed something big to take the game back. Who else could they call on but Amon-Ra St. Brown? The number 14 came darting across the formation pre-snap, taking the ball on a jet sweep that caught the Commanders' defense sleeping for a lung-busting 58-yard gain. Amon-Ra had once again delivered the Lions to the red zone, teeing up yet another scoring drive to put them up 29-15. That rushing play exemplified St. Brown's importance to the side. His calmness under pressure and versatility were invaluable to a team that was still finding its offensive identity. He always had the ability to bail them out with big plays, and was finally getting the chance to show it. Washington responded with another touchdown to narrow the deficit, but Detroit wasn't done there. St. Brown had an 8-yard reception to move his side deeper into Commanders' territory before running a tidy out route on the goal line 2 plays later, where Goff fired the ball into his gloves and let his wide receiver do the rest. Amon-Ra broke the plane for the second time that day, restoring the 2-score cushion. Though Washington found the end zone once more, the Lions ultimately held out for their first win of the season, 36-27. Beyond what being 1-1 meant for the city of Detroit in that moment, across the league, all anyone could talk about was Amon-Ra St. Brown's clinic in the Motor City. His 9 receptions for 116 yards and 2 touchdowns to go along with a further 68 yards on the ground was his 6th straight game with 8 or more receptions and a touchdown, good for an NFL record. It wasn't just his statistical contributions that were lauded, but also his massive impact on team morale. The guy is a competitor, no doubt, and he never shies away from a big moment, coming up with a spark every single time that the Lions were fading out against the Commanders. Particularly in the red zone, St. Brown is virtually unplayable, completely defying the pre-draft evaluations that claimed his lack of size and athleticism would hinder his ability to score in the NFL. And don't worry, he kept receipts from the draft. The coaching staff is largely responsible for the unreal turnaround in the Lions' fortunes, and St. Brown's coming out party was no exception. Post-game, he sang offensive coordinator Ben Johnson's praises for his NFC Offensive Player of the Week performance. I tell everyone Johnson is one of the best coaches I've been around. He has that young mind. He's open to new ideas. He puts all of us in the right position to make plays. He knows our strengths. He knows our weaknesses. He knows what the quarterback likes. He knows everything. Johnson had taken over offensive play calling duties midway through 2021. and it's no coincidence that coincided with St. Brown seeing more of the ball, which has helped this unit evolve into a scoring machine in recent seasons, with Johnson widely recognized as one of the best offensive minds in the league. Though the Lions hit a rough patch shortly after, in an all too familiar pattern, they had a late run of wins which brought them to 9-8 and also pushed St. Brown to over 1,200 yards from scrimmage on the season, good enough for his first Pro Bowl nod. As we all now know, 2023 saw a renaissance in Detroit, winning their first division title in 30 years. St. Brown had no small part to play in that, leading the way with over 1,500 receiving yards and 10 touchdowns on a 12-5 season. It wasn't exactly a surprise that those stats earned him a first-team All-Pro and second Pro Bowl nod. He was regularly churning out performances in the vein of that Week 2 masterclass against Wentz's Washington. He even showed out in his first postseason, shining in an emotionally charged wildcard round against the Rams, where Amon-Ra earned multiple clutch first downs while racking up 110 receiving yards against his hometown team. He finished the postseason with 274 yards and a touchdown across 3 games. Yet another California boy endearing himself to the Lions faithful by playing a pivotal role in turning the franchise around, as well as notching their first playoff win since the 1990s. His numbers haven't been quite as jaw-dropping in 2024, but St. Brown has remained a premier wideout in the NFC's best and most dynamic offense. Given Detroit's current trajectory, and the fact that he's been a Pro Bowler twice in the span of 3 full seasons in the league, St. Brown's ceiling is scarily high. If he can keep this level of production up throughout the duration of his 4-year, $120 million contract extension, could he make a case for being the one and only St. Brown brother to have a legitimate shot at a bust in Canton? That amount of money shows just how much faith Detroit has in him. But do you think they will improve on their 2023 finish and actually make it to their first Super Bowl, let alone win the damn thing? Let us know in the comments.